Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here from YoVideogames, and I'm back again with a new series of videos that I'm going to call Hype Check, going over all the Switch 2 announced games and how I feel about them, not only after the Switch 2 Direct, but also watching the live streams that Nintendo themselves hosted at their Treehouse presentation. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in and let's start with the first game they showed off, and that is Mario Kart World. As you probably saw in my Direct reaction, yeah, I actually really like the name of the world. I like the gimmick of sort of having one big interconnected world and you kind of race from place to place. So, the idea on its face is pretty cool. I was really wondering what they were going to do with Mario Kart After 8 Deluxe because, you know, we had gliding, we had undersea, I had hoverboards or hover carts, I guess you could say. And it was like, well, what are they going to do with the next one? You know, what do they go with here? And it kind of seems like you could have gone with like a big single player story campaign, but they didn't really go with that. But they did take something from that idea, and they did include basically a giant open world into the game and call it Mario Kart World. And I like the idea of that. And the big three modes they showed off was obviously the classic GP, and then they showed off basically an elimination mode, and they had a free roam mode, and all of them are online. Now, one thing I will say is that from the get-go, visually, this doesn't really look like it's trying to one-up Mario Kart 8 at all. And that's okay because it's Mario Kart. Do we really care that much? Mario Kart 8 was a very good-looking game. It still is a very good-looking game. I don't know if we really need to try to like one-up the graphics on that. But for a new console, new system as your big launch title, it's not necessarily a graphical showpiece, but what it is a showpiece of is it has 24 characters racing at once, and you know, depending on the mode, you could be going seamlessly from place to place to place. So that is pretty cool. One thing I will note from, you know, gleaning some of the Treehouse footage is that they are kind of filling out the roster with some real weird selections. Apparently, nobody has seen anything of the Koopa Kids, which that just dropped 7 there, but we have seen weird enemies like the Snowman from Mario 64 and the coin purse thing that you chase in the Mario Galaxy games. Like, these are some really bottom of the barrel picks. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm always real with you guys, but this is some bottom of the barrel bullshit here for Mario Kart picks. They really could have dug into other things. Like, they could have put like Kakaletta, you know, or other characters from Mario and Luigi, or some of the other fan favorites from maybe even some of the Wario games, Captain Syrup. I don't know. Just they could have floated a couple dollar bills over to Square Enix, since then we have Gino and Mallow. Maybe there'll be DLC, who knows? But like, the way they padded out this roster, it makes even pink, gold, metallic Peach look like a good inclusion in Mario Kart 8. So, yeah, 24 characters, and there's a lot of characters to choose from, but like, it's basically every mindless enemy you've ever seen in a Mario game just sort of thrown onto a cart. So I'll be real, that's a little like, can't really say I'm like super thrilled with some of these kart racer selections here. But I guess if you're a big fan of, you know, Wiggler or the bee, you know, whatever. Hey, the cow is now a playable character. Yes, that background decoration from Moo Moo Meadows, great, is now a playable character. Actually, that looked kind of fun. The cow like grinding. And again, that brings me into the grinding aspect. So yeah, you now have grinding and parkouring in the game, and that looks really cool. I actually like the more jump-focused gameplay. It almost gives it a bit more of a Crash Team Racing vibe, almost, with how much jumping around, but even more in depth with, again, the parkour, like driving on the side of the walls, hopping from, you know, wall hopping and rail grinding and stuff. And that is all very cool. Now, besides just the roster being like filled with like, whoa, there's a lot of characters here, and not a lot of them are kind of like throwaway. The other thing is that the GP mode, I was slightly disappointed from what I saw with the Treehouse stream, which was when you do GP, you pick a section of the world, and it picks 4 courses, right? And at the end you do like 3 laps of the first course. And instead of going to the next course, you drive to the next course. However, it's not like you drive to it and that kind of changes where you place your cart, like I thought it might do, where you finish the race and then you drive to the next race, and that determines your starting position on the second race. No, it's kind of like you do a race with 3 laps, and then you drive to the second course after it loads. So it stops and loads, tallies up, you know, the racers' positions, and then you load in and you drive from the first course and you drive to the second. And when you get to the second course, you do 1 lap, and that's it. So the majority of time for your second race in GP is driving to the second track or the third track or the fourth track. And when you get there, you do 1 lap. I've heard some of them you might do 2 laps if it's a really short course that you drive to, but it's kind of weird to me that when you're doing GP, you're only doing like a 3-lap race on the first course selected, and then you're spending most of the time driving to the next racetrack, and then you do 1 lap on it. That kind of bummed me out a little bit. It's nothing that would be like, oh man, I don't want to play this game anymore. Just throw it in the dumpster fire. It's just like I'm a little confused, like that this is their GP mode, and there's maybe not a standard GP mode where you could do, multiple laps on all the different tracks. But then again, maybe they've designed the game in a way where the second, third, fourth courses that you drive to are not really meant to be done with multi laps. Like we can see from the very cool Donkey Kong arcade-inspired lap at the end of the GP they showed off, that it's like that's kind of like you're just driving uphill. It's like an uphill drive, it's like reverse initial D or whatever. So it's not really meant for laps or anything. Although you can make it work. We've seen it work in other kart racers like Sonic Transformed. So it could be done. But anyways, that's kind of a bummer. But the knockout elimination mode, that actually looked really cool because it didn't have the sort of stop, pause, tally, load in, and then drive to the next course. That is, the courses are laid out, and you are just driving from course to course in a battle royale style, where the last 4 places at the end of each course you drive to get eliminated. So you do a lap, you go to the next course, you do a lap, you go to the next course. So you go to like 6 different racetracks. And at the end of each track, for the last 4 places, people in 24 through 20 at the start, they get eliminated. You're just gone, dead. So at the very end, it is just the first 4 in the final race, competing for obviously for first place. This can maybe potentially be. This will depend a lot on how it shakes out, but. You would hope that there's not this sort of thing where the top player is so far ahead of everyone else he doesn't even have to do anything, or that maybe like the first couple people are ahead and then it's just everyone just slowly dies off in the end. Like it has this problem in split second a bit too, where if you get too far ahead or too far behind, the races become kind of boring because you're just too far away to be affected. Obviously, this is the point of blue shells and whatnot, but we'll see how this works out in the end with the elimination mode. But I actually really liked I think the elimination mode to me looked more exciting than even the GP mode. And free roam will be fun. We'll see what they can do with it. I haven't watched really too much extra footage on free roam, but the fact that free roam is online is a very good sign to me, because that's just going to be like just a fun thing for people to do, to just hang out, have some fun, maybe make up their own rules, their own games, play tag, whatever, hide and seek even, who knows. I can see free roam being a sort of underdog for like a really awesome mode that sort of takes off and becomes like a sort of beloved part of the game, even though people may not be expecting it. But I think free roam actually has a lot of potential. And that, the last thing to really kind of say here, and the one that, probably it's the elephant in the room here, the Mario elephant in the room, if you will, is that this game is $80 if you don't buy the bundle. Now, as of the recording of this video, Mario Kart World comes with the Switch 2 in a bundle for 500 American US dollars. That could change. That could change by the time this video goes public. But as of now, the best way to get this game is with the Switch 2 in a bundle where it's a $50 add-on. Separately, if you opt to buy a Switch 2 by itself, this game is $80 US. And in fact, is worse in other parts of the world where a physical cartridge of this 24 gigabyte Mario Kart World will set you back 90 euros. So there's really no other way to say it. I'm just going to be blunt here. It's asinine. It is outrageous. It is way too much money for a Mario Kart game, regardless of how much you enjoy Mario Kart, how much you will play Mario Kart throughout the course of a system's life, charging $80 digital, $90 physical in some places, is absolutely obscene. It is unfathomable that they would actually think that a 30% markup on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you know, it was okay to do regardless of graphics. Because I'm going to be real here, even with the fact that, you know, Switch 2 is a hybrid portable system, yada yada yada, you know, we're talking about a system that is still in the sort of PS4 Pro level of power range here, and most PS4 games were $60. The fact that there's like $80 for our kart racer, our flagship kart racer, it to me is just that is a shot through the heart of goodwill. Like, there's no reason Mario Kart 8 Deluxe should have been $60 to this day, but it is, because that game is over 10 years old. It's 11 now, but here we are, and the follow-up game is going to be $80. I'm sorry. As cool as this game looks, as cool as all the features, the free roam, the elimination mode, you know, the open world, the connectedness of it, as cool as all of that is not $80. Like, very few games in this world are $80. In fact, I can only think of one franchise that I would ever be willingly okay to be, $80 sounds fair. That's Xenoblade, in case you haven't figured it out if you're new to this channel. So this is way too much money. Do I think it's worth the price? I don't think any game is worth that price but Xenoblade. But I do think in a vacuum on its own, or say $50, for $50, this seems like a good deal for $50. It seems fair at $50. You know, $58 for getting it bundled with the Switch 2. So, yeah, like, my hype check for this game, if I'm going to give it a number rank, and I will be doing that for all the games, is I will give this game a 7. I think it does look cool, it does look exciting, it does look fun. If I can get it with a Switch 2 bundle, I think it'll totally be worth it. But I think charging $80 is outrageous. I think the character roster leaves a lot to be desired, unless they're somehow planning to use DLC, which I guess if you're going to charge $80 for Mario Kart, you know, monetary DLC isn't out of the question. So all the other characters like the Koopa Kids and maybe things you actually wanted to play as, they'll charge you extra money for, because the age of greed is upon us. But yeah, just, it's too much money. The roster leaves a bit to be desired, and Grand Prix does seem like a pretty big departure from the rest of the series. One I'm not entirely convinced is going to necessarily be for the better. You know, the whole just, you drive to the second, third, and fourth courses and you only do one lap on them. That seems a bit of a buzzkill. They said nothing about a battle mode either. So a big part of Mario Kart, especially for longtime fans, has been battle mode. Not here. So yeah, that's also a kind of a bit of a bummer. Hopefully not something they're just going to charge you extra for in the future. But yeah, my hype check is 7. I hope to get this game in the bundle. I think it does look cool, but yeah, anyone who you know is not going to be able to jump in right away because the price, I'm with you. This price on its own, the standalone price for this game, way too high. Way too high, out of their minds. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you on the channel. Later, dudes.